Hello everybody, it's Ben again with the DIY Homefront. Today we're going to be working on sulfur water. We've got a well and we've got some sulfur water. I've been working at trying to get it canceled for a while, but I never can't seem to get it quite done. So let's do something about it today. This is the pump house. Well, the sun's bright right now. And what I've got to do out here is I've got to turn the water off going to the house. That's the valve that shuts the water off going to the house. That's step one. So let's get inside and go to the fuse box and turn the power off to the water heater. Let me stop here for a second and I'll tell you what's going on. If you live in the city, this may not apply to you, but if you live out in the country and you've got your own well, this definitely can happen. We've got sulfur water, which just means we have sulfur gases in the water. It seems like it goes up and down with how bad it is at different times of the year, depending on how much rain we have. I know that doesn't make sense, but sometimes it seems to be a lot worse than others. And whenever you turn on the spigot or you're in the shower and that water gets misted out, all the sulfur gases come out and it smells like rotten eggs. And in addition to the smell, it'll end up causing metal to corrode. Silver will tarnish, your fixtures will sort of corrode. My wife hates it, and I don't like it either. I went online and found a device that's supposed to get rid of the sulfur in the water, actually inside of the water heater. There's an anode that goes in your water heater, and you replace it with one that's electrically driven, and it's supposed to get rid of the sulfur. And since my wife takes a lot of showers and she takes only hot showers, if I can get that water heater to get rid of the sulfur gases, that'll be a good start in the right direction. So I've got an unboxing. I've got two products to look at. I ended up buying some impact wrenches to take the anode out of the water heater. And if you're not sure what an anode is, stick around. I'll show you what an anode is. And then I've got the unboxing of the actual device that goes in the water heater. Well, let's go inside and do the unboxing. All right, so these are the three things that we're looking at using. A porcelain lamp receptacle with an outlet. This is an anode, but it needs to be wired. All right, let's do some more work on this unboxing. The first thing that I've got is a new impact socket set. I needed one that was really large to fit this anode, and I did not have one. And I think I could have bought one for about $12 or $13, and I bought this whole set for $25, and I thought, you know what, I might as well just get the whole set. And then I'll also have one that fits on the anode that's currently in the water heater. Like I said, the only thing we're probably going to need is probably just these two. The second unboxing we have is going to be this. And like I said, this is supposed to help with the sulfur gases inside of your water heater. I think the light might be reflected off of that. I'll get this opened up in a minute. All right, let's finish this unboxing. Open up this end and pull. What do we have here? So that's our anode. Looks like it's got a connector up top, stainless steel, some threads, a plastic protective sleeve, and I think this is supposed to be titanium. Should end up running a current through the anode that's going to go back to the side of the water heater, and when it does, somehow or another, it gets rid of the sulfur gases. See what else is in here in this box. Seems like there should be something else in here. There we go. There. Not the best way to open it, but okay, not much to it. A power supply, some kind of a screw to attach it, and then a connector for the top of it. Not much to it at all. I'll have to get some thread, some Teflon tape around that before I get it in the water heater. Almost forgot. We were supposed to turn off the power going to the water heater. So this is the circuit breaker box. And the water heater is 30, 32, 30, 32. Water heater is off. All right, before we get started, let's do a quick rundown of what to expect when you see a water heater. You usually have metal covers over the elements. Pull this little tab back, and there we go. So here's our element. This is a temperature set, and that's an overheat pop. So if the element just keeps on forever and ever and ever and the water heater gets too hot, that will trip. So I've got an element there, and this water heater has two elements, and I've got an element behind this cover. All water heaters have some kind of pressure relief valve, and this is a release right there if you wanted to release pressure automatically. Usually when you have a water heater that goes bad and floods your house, the pressure relief valve has gone bad and starts letting water run out, and it runs out onto the floor. This water heater is sitting inside of a metal pan that's got a hole in it that goes to the ground underneath the house. So that way if the pressure relief valve were to start going bad and the water heater started leaking, the water would go outside. Okay, let me show you the anode that's in the water heater and go ahead and get that out of there. The anode's right there. It's reset. You can't see it. What I'm going to end up doing is pulling this cover off so that I can get around it with my socket. And I don't think this one's that bad because I replaced it not too long ago. But you may have a dickens getting the anode out. So I'm going to use my impact driver. And it should take just a bit. And there we go. And it is out. Oh my goodness. You can see it's too long to make it out of the ceiling. So what they've done is they put some segments into this so it can bend, so that you can arc it back. You can see I had to really bend it to get it out, and I had to bend it to get it in. And this really doesn't look all that bad. So now I'm going to take a towel and just clean up all the water from the hole that it came out of. It doesn't seem like it's too bad, to be honest. Well, let's go get the new anode and put it in. So let me get some Teflon tape and wrap around that. Teflon tape's what you use to make a watertight seal. And the only tricky part with Teflon tape is it's supposed to go around it the same direction as the threads. So that way as you screw it in, you're not screwing it against the threads. And wrapped it the other way, and then I went to screw this in. It would be wanting to peel back and bunch up all the Teflon tape. But since I wrap it this way, the same direction it screws in, it's wanting to pull the tape tight. It wants to pull the tape tight. Okay, there's the top. There's our hole. Simply goes in. I'm going to thread it to get it started. Socket onto that. That's my right socket. That's going in. I bet you that's it. Years ago, I had installed a shutoff for the water heater right here. And I'm going to turn that off. And then I'm going to go outside and turn the water on. The water will be off to the water heater. I can come back in, turn that on and be right here. And if it's leaking or spraying or I see any water, I can immediately turn it off. So that allows me a lot greater flexibility to control the water at the water heater. Something I did when I installed the water heater way back when. All right, the water's back on. Turn the valve on and see what happens. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put up my Teflon tape, put up my new impact sockets and my impact wrench, and turn the water heater back on. The wife doesn't like it if she takes a shower and there's no hot water. Okay, the tools are put away. Let's get the hot water back on. I just want to take a moment and say thanks for watching the videos. Please like and subscribe, and I'll try to keep the content coming. Okay, we're back at the water heater. I'm going to take the anode that I took out and I'm going to put it in the corner behind the water heater, because if our little gizmo doesn't work, I can put this back in. And believe it or not, the ones that are segmented like this are more costly than ones that aren't. That's in the corner. I always leave my element and my wrench on top of the water heater because that's where I need it. Now the next step is going to be above us. The power supply for the anode needs to be plugged into an outlet. I've got a light receptacle that's got power all the time above the water heater. And what I'm going to do is replace that light receptacle with one that has an outlet in it. I was going to have that in this video, but it would have gone too long. So I'm going to go ahead and put it in a separate video with a separate title. And I'll link it at the very end of this video. The last part of this would be for me to actually hook up the anode that we put in the hot water heater. I read the instructions, and this gets screwed in to one of the screws on the side of the tank. I'm going to choose the screw that's right here. Can you see that? I'm going to put that there. I'm sorry, I can't hold you and do this at the same time because there's just not enough room in here. There we go, screwed in. And then the other end gets plugged into this lead, like so. This is going to get plugged into our outlet up there. It's got a little green dot on it that's supposed to show when it's on. All right, we're in power, we're in gold. Okay, this is that man signing off from the closet. The anode has been installed. The only thing left to do is give it time and see if it helps. But I still have more tools to put away. So earlier when I turned on the water heater, I actually turned off the stove. Tools been put away. Let's turn the circuit breaker for the water heater back on. So earlier I went to make dinner and I didn't have any power on the stove. And I'm like, why is the power turned off? So I went back to the circuit breaker box to see what was going on. And when I did, I realized that the stove was turned off. I also realized that the water heater wasn't turned on. So I turned it on. And as soon as I did, it tripped it back off. I did it again and it tripped right back off. So let me show you what's going on. If this is plugged in and I go turn on that circuit breaker to the water heater, it's going to trip. And I cannot for the life of me figure out why. With this powering that lead and the other portion of the lead being grounded to the frame. So I have no idea why that's doing that. So the only thing I know to do is start checking wires and make sure everything is grounded like it is supposed to be. So water heater circuit breaker's off. Let's take this off and see what's going on. Okay, there's that, and There's that. I can't tell if there is a true ground wire. Let's take this other side off so I can get some more room. The only thing I know to do is to just start troubleshooting and seeing what's going on. I can't figure out why grounding to the frame of the water heater would trip a circuit breaker. I cut some of the shielding back on the wire going into the hot water heater. And as crazy as it sounds, there's 2 hots and a white wire, but there's no separate ground. Can't believe there's only 3 wires in there. It appears to be grounded right. The water heater's always worked. The next thing to do is to take the covers off each one of the heating elements and to see if everything looks right there. Not the easiest screws to get off, but it's coming. 2 screws and then a plastic cover. It's a well insulated water heater. And then just like on top, there's a little plastic protective cover. I'm not sure exactly how everything's supposed to look. We've got a red and a black wire that are attached to a red and black wire on top of the water heater. So both of these should be hot. That's a emergency cutoff. In case the water heater gets too hot, it shuts off. So that's a safety device. So I don't know why I thought one of the leads was supposed to be ground. I thought the way the heating element worked is I thought one was supposed to be hot in and the other was supposed to be ground on the heating elements. I really did. Let's go try to do some research. That water heater was installed December of 2009. And there's the operator's manual. I'm going to cheat for a second. I'm going to make all the red wires red. Because what I want to do is I want to compare this. We don't have a single element, so I know it's not the C2. So this one has a high limit and a high limit. We don't have that one. This is actually the one we've got because it has a single high limit. Okay, it's time to compare the two. It says I should have a black coming in and a red coming in. So those check off. It says I should have a red that comes out of this and goes down to the bottom element. So a red that comes out and goes down to the bottom element, check. And it looks like I should have a blue wire that comes out of here and goes to a side of the heating element, which it does. And then I should have a black wire that comes out and goes down to the lower thermistor. So that's my black wire that's going down. So I've got a red and a black wire, a red and a black wire that go down. So I've got a black wire that comes into hot. That's the shut off in case it gets too hot. It shows that those two are jumped, and that's what that is. That's a jumper. And then it says I should have a yellow wire that goes to the other side of the lead, with this being the temperature control for this element. There's a temperature controller for the bottom element. I don't get where we could have anything wrong. The bottom's wired right too. Here's one hot lead that goes to one side of the lower element. The other power lead comes to the top of this, which is the temperature gauge, and then the other one goes to it. But anyway, nothing's wired wrong. I just wanted to stop in the middle of this and say 2 things. Please be safe, especially around electrical wiring. And thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe, and I'll try to keep more content coming. I wanted to show you how I check to make sure an element for the water heater is good, in case I don't exactly describe it while we're working on the water heater. Most ohm meters or voltmeters have 3 different settings. You've got an AC voltage side, a DC voltage side, and then an ohm side. And the ohm is what tells you about resistance. And the easiest way I could probably describe it is, with this wire right now, there's no resistance. So if you put a lead on one end and on the other end, you would see 0 resistance. If you were to take a wire and cut it in half and then put a lead on each end, you would see ultimate resistance. This ohm meter has a buzzer. So right now it's reading ultimate resistance. And the buzzer tells you that there's a path. It doesn't tell you how much resistance the path caused, but it tells you that there's a path. And that's probably the easiest way to tell if you have an element that's gone bad or not. If you've got an element, normally what happens is corrosion gets to it from being inside the water heater, being hot and cold, and all the, I want to say the stuff that's in the water, the mineral deposits and everything, it will collect on it. But if you take the leads and put it on the ends, it should tell you that there's a path through this. There's a path for the electricity to go through one side and out the other. Now this path is going to cause resistance, and that resistance is going to be heat. And that's how the water heater works. You run the electricity through the element produces resistance to the electricity makes it hot, and that heats up the water. But like I said, probably 90 times out of 100, if you can go to an element and do this, then that means the element's good. So there you have it. The next thing I could do is I could test to see if many of my elements are burnt out. I tested the bottom one, the bottom element's good. I'm really not sure what to do next. There was a few nicks in the wire, but I don't see anywhere where the wire is actually broke. This ground here should screw into this, and this should be grounded, so the top, all of it should be grounded to zero. I mean to ground. With the circuit breaker off, it's a green light. I am going to go turn that circuit breaker back on and see if it trips. It shouldn't. Two hot leads aren't touching anything. Okay, we're back at the circuit breaker box. Why are you automatically tripping back? I wonder if the circuit breaker's going bad. There's 5 screws that hold this thing on that I need to take off. Let me do that. There's not a whole lot of room right here to work. You can see here, it's not really pretty. Those are the 2 leads. They go up. All I'm doing is checking. I don't see any nicks anywhere. It goes through right here. It's got a grommet. You can see the grounding wire. It gets crazy going back there. I have no idea where that grounding wire goes. Everything looks pretty good. Still doing that. I think that circuit breaker might be bad. I actually have a spare 20 amp circuit breaker. I keep a couple of spares in my circuit breaker box. And I still can't believe that. What dumb luck. And here I thought I had done something terribly wrong. This is the reason why I keep my manuals. I want to do one other thing. I want to look and see what the recommended circuit breaker is for that. Maximum allowable spontaneous operation is 5,000 watts. I wonder how many watts I have on that. Alright, I've done my research, and the best I can figure out is that I probably should be running a 25 amp circuit breaker instead of a 20 amp. I've been running a 20 amp for probably 20 years with no problems, and it's probably just finally gone bad. So I have a brand new 20 amp circuit breaker, and I'm going to replace it with a brand new 20 amp circuit breaker. And I will order a 25 amp circuit breaker, and when it comes in, I will swap the 2 out. So let's start getting all this stuff put back together. All right, I'm at the circuit breaker box. And what I'm going to do, you guys should not do. And I'm going to swap this circuit breaker out. And I'm going to do it probably the incorrect way because I'm not going to turn the power off. You should really, really be careful on circuit breaker boxes. But I'm just going to do what I'm going to do, and you guys can take it for granted. But whatever you do, don't do what I do. It's probably not the safest thing in the world. Circuit breakers have a little clasp in the back. They click in and push down. So if you ever want to get rid of a circuit breaker, you pull it back and away. And now the circuit breaker is out of the panel and cannot hurt me. Now I'm just going to untighten the two leads. It goes back in the same way. Can you see those two little tabs? You're going to hook the back on that and just slide it forward. Hook the back onto it and slide it forward. And that's how you replace a circuit breaker. I'm not saying that's the right way to do it. I'm just saying that's the way I did it. Mental note to myself, the circuit breaker is off. Okay, we are back in here and we need to get this buttoned up. Styrofoam piece, make sure no heat escapes. We've got to get all this back together. Okay. Red to red. Okay, those are nice and tight. Let's get that. Let's put this right. Here we go. Down. Don't want to drop you. I'll be looking for that for a while. We are done with that. The water heater has been reassembled. Okay, here we have the moment of truth. How about that? And I thought something with that anode I had put in was causing a problem. Just a bad circuit breaker. Okay, let's get this cover back on. Okay, there we go. Not a very pretty box, but it's there. All right, that wraps up this job. It just was a freak accident that the circuit breaker went bad at the same time we decided to put in that anode. Go figure. Well, keep watching. You never know what I might be working on next, and I'll see you then.